Chapter 8 Fire Prevention. Introduction. The purpose of fire prevention is to eliminate the fire hazard or elements which cause the fire to occur, which contribute to the spread of the fire. The fire utmost concern is the prevention of destructive fires. Prevention saves the effort and expense of extinguishing them. The policy arrangement may be made to the firefighters to perform the prevention duties available from the fire station at the same time on being available for the fire call. To prevent the situation with being hazardous, one of the three elements of the fire triangle must be removed. Of one of the three, the heat is under undetermined condition. One is which most generally considered by the standpoint of the fire prevention. Effective fire prevention requires the establishment well planned with the program of the organization, publicity, support, and cooperation, inspection, supervision, implementation, maintaining it. It also requires installing the personal responsibility and interesting the individual so that they will help to prevent the loss of property life with the fire due to the carelessness. The personal interest is concentrated with the effort of all concerned from the commander to the supervisor. Individual is essential that the fire prevention program is to be a success. 8.2. Cigarettes and matches. Smoking the greatest signal of the cause of fire. The careless disregard of the matches, dropping the hot ashes, the careless leaving the lit cigarettes at the principal infraction of the smokers that cause fire. Smoke does not appear to be serious, but the cause of the fire is the most individual. Those must be a great majority have never been started with the fire of smoking. They may know actually anyone who carries the carelessly discards a lighted cigarette may be guilty of having started a fire, even though the cigarette may have not been dropped upon concrete. Metal or barren earth. Paper having a low flash point is very easily to burn a lighted cigarette, thus emptying the ashtray in the waste paper containing the foolish, even though the cigarette butts apparently are not smaller. B. Any type of the match may start a fire, but the possibility of doing so vary greatly according to the type of the match. Probably the safety match, the head will not fly off the struck, and the stick is treated with the element of the afterglow. The use of the good safety matches should be required, especially in areas with non-flammable gases, vapors, and especially in areas with non-flammable gases, vapors, and materials. 8.3. Waste materials and rubbish of great contributes in the sharp spread of the fire, independent of the flammable liquids. Waste materials containing the having spontaneous ignition, characteristic of area life, likely to cause fire. High standard of cleanliness, completely eliminate loose rubbish from the building interiors, unquestionably among the greatest factors of the fire prevention and the duty not only to fire inspection personally, but also they personally occupy the building so that the poor housekeeping habits are eliminated when impossible, very inconvenient to remove flammable rubbish from the building immediately. Such the material should be kept in fireproof with the fire restraint containers enclosure. Be clean waste, although the hazardous use of the reclaim that has occasionally been reported with the source of spontaneous ignition. Consequently, all waste of exclusion, straw, sawdust, burlap should be kept in the middle tinged with self-glow and covered to prevent the emissions of the oxygen and thus ignition of the heavy combustible substances. Spontaneous ignition occurs amid extremely variable conditions and is difficult that the specific quality of the flammable material will be ignited independently of external heat, since the naked eye cannot be seen all the contents of the material. Furthermore, the time required for the ignition may range from a few minutes to months. 8.4. Live sparks. Live sparks, the chimney stacks, refuse the burners, other similar sources must be given properly priority consideration. Spark arresting screens can be installed over the openings, but their efficiency is limited. The small or mesh screen will let the many of the sparks escape. The smash screen will soon become carbon congested and impeded with the passage of smoke. The best procedure to use a medium mesh screen with adhesive-resisting alloy metal. The screen will require periodic cleaning of the medium mesh. Will allow only the sparks having lit with a glow life to ample escape, retaining the larger and more dangerous embers in the stack during the period of low humidity, high wind, and velocity. The small precaution must be taken depending upon the fire risk immediately area. 8.5. Mechanical devices. Engines of any type of other machine which the friction is created are possible sources of fire. A common example of the fire caused by the overheated bearings where the engines there should be frequently eliminate the lemon and dust of the immediate surroundings of the moving the mechanical devices. Although the accessible flammable lubricant should be moved promptly. Grinding wheels and other sparking producing equipment that frequently causes the fire should be permitted in areas which may not contain flammable gas or vapors. Neither should the flammable materials or any type of the left in the area where the sparks may fall upon them Blower systems include all duct insulation, whether the insulated with ventilation, air conditioning, dusting of vapor, and elimination of fire hazards must be included, including some metals in the explosion hazards where special parts as possible. The sparks may be struck from the fan motors overheated with the fan bearings. The movement of the fan against the surrounding metal. Blower fans or either metal housing should consist of non-ferrous metal. The ducts must be metal free of the contact with the wood, other flammable material. They must also contain parts which will permit frequent cleaning departments in which will isolate the fire in single section prevention files. 8.6. Effective with the sun. Sun frequently responsible for fires through is usually assisted with some man-made implementation of firefight. A fire inspector was especially observant with the implementation because under the conditions they're extremely difficult to detect as fire hazards. For example, the forest fire have been known to start with the discarded bottles or other fragments of glass that have been careless campers. The sun rays and shining of the blue piece of glass, which may be idly curved and placed as to the act of magnifying glass, the concentrated with ignite with the paste of the paper. Similarly, the curtains to be ignited with the window pane curtain containing the bubble and some other irregularities. Fire may also occur sources, laboratory flasks, and fish bowls, water bowls, and concave mirrors, which reflect heat. Other common sources of the sun also contribute to spontaneous heat, the aiding of the ignition during the warm seasons when buildings are closed. On the weekend, sprinkler heads located between the skylights and the attic spaces may be discharged, often resulting in considerable water damage. The possibility of fire being started with the sun is somewhat remote. However, since normal conditions may create the so-called freak fires, any of the fire may completely destroy a building, and many buildings the possibility to destroy every carefully consideration. 8.7. Buildings under the construction. Building the various stages of the construction is usually more fire hazard than they do after they are completed. Probably the primary reason for these facts, most people visualize the building down completely before it is put up completely. Therefore, it is usually fire extinguisher equipment immediately available on an army-based construction operation are common. The loss of energy, loss of any of the project's fire regarding the last of the stage of the completion may cause the severe or the hazardous series of delays. This reason is recommended fire extinguisher may be made available prompt in quantity and adequately distributed through the project. All excess wood or other combustible materials should be removed properly. Heaters and heating equipment should be strong and safe. They should be relocated which they are and will not ignite material and must be constantly attended. Combustible materials should not be stored near the buildings or under the construction. Gasoline volatile liquids should be segregated to store in the stand and safety containers, preferably underground if the liquid is kept in large quantity. The windbreakers, the tarpaulins should be properly secured with the large. Location should be checked for the possible fire source. Welding should be supervised and all adjacent combustible materials either removed or adequately protected. Flying embers, straightaways, exits most clearly properly maintained in order to enable the quick evacuation of the structure for the extinguishing of the fire location. 8.8. Heating systems are a common source of fire during the winter seasons. On the most latitude, the heating of the unit, the conditions of the installation are drier and it is impossible to deal with each of the specific hazards. Detail the best procedure of inspecting heating system out of the operation. Although as various phases of the operation take the necessary action to eliminate hazards, any source of the heat is potential fire hazard unless it is constructed and installed and will not heat and nearby combustible materials to the point where they ignite. Heating the device is the proper margin of the safe that should be installed with the exposed woodwork would not be heated in excess of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Normally, the building codes require the heating of the units for conveying the ducts and be installed with the given the medium distance for the combustible materials. This condition seems somewhat unimportant if we do not take the ventilation circulation aspect into consideration. Insulation alone is not a solution to the safe heating. Heat from a stove base, for example, is known to be penetrated with the metal brick or the asbestos char wood beneath. These materials have no airspace between them. Long periods of the high temperatures have been known for the cause fire. Apparently, the safe conditions in large rooms, responsible clearance between the heating device and combustible material is primarily requested in small rooms. The lack of space restricts the proper clearance and sometimes the adequate insulation supply the proper safeguarding against ignition combustions require the close weight of the quantities consistent with the heat and the more careful inspection. Furnaces. Stationary heating devices are rated in 3 degrees, low, medium, and high. Low-grade furnaces develop in temperatures up to medium 600 degrees. Medium-grade temperatures develop from temperatures 600 degrees Fahrenheit to 1,500 degrees. High-grade furnaces create temperatures excess of 115 1500 degrees. Require 30 feet of frontal clearance and 10 feet of the rear and inside and 15 feet of the overhead clearance. Steam pipes are in any type of the many of the course of the wind make charcoal out of the wood, which may be in the contact of the charcoal subject to spontaneous ignition because it absorbs greater quantities of oxygen in atmosphere. Steam pipes should be wrapped in asbestos magnesium insulation, which will minimize 1 inch of the clearance from all woodwork. D. Range of ventilation system. Massive range of ventilation system present great hazards in dining halls or your location where the food is prepared to large groups. The hot grease boilers over containers, residual hoods, and over the range of the space within the duct leading away from the hoods, and the chief of the source of the fire danger of the duct should be made with not less than number 18 U.S. standard gauge sealed tightly riveted with the joints so that the grease residual ignites and burns when there will minimum of the damage building itself. Access ports should be pried and exhaust ducts to enable periodic cleaning. Stoves. Cool wood stoves should be mounted with the fire-resistant floor should flow the clearance of ventilation requirements of the low-grade furnace. The stovepipes must be properly installed with mostly passed for the confined space, but the ignition temperature could build up, and the stovepipes should be properly supported with the keep in good repair and clean regularity. 8-9. Electricity is improperly used mostly easily becomes a major fire hazard and serious source of danger to personnel. When assembled or proper, the rules of the installation followed with electricity superior with the source of power and illumination. The heat it may become the fire hazard, overheating and arcing and sparking. Overheating is a condition where the overload of the electrical circuit is passed through a wire and internal heat is created, but the overload burns and ignites the insulation covering the wire. Insulation ignites and adjacent with the combustibility. When the electrical motor over the work of the defective overheats, the fire results. The single electrical outlet and wire used for the power supplies many electrical implements, causing overheating, arcing, and sustaining luminous glows with the form of making uncertain condition to make of the make, and the break is made with the electrical circuit and light with the breaker points of the automotive distributed system. Example for arcing. Sparking is an electrical condition in which the light is created with the company with the sun and distributive discharge between two conductors separated by the air or some similar medium. The action of the spark plugs an internal combustion engine into the example of sparking. To minimize the hazard of electrical source, the equipment of the installation should be standardized properly and maintained with the job of the desired inspection personally and to see that these hazards are completely eliminated, being certain that no fires will start with the electrical source. They will start an electrical source today with no assurance with the fire safety next week. The inspectors usually are unable to visit each of the building daily must be helped educated the occupants on the constitute a fire hazard. C. Electrical installations are made in accordance with the National Electrical Code, state laws, and municipal ordinance, and the provisions following the fire hazards are decreased and certainly not eliminated. Deterioration by the abuse and age often requires the replacement of electrical wires. The associated implements frequently crude installation use electrical fixtures in place with the flagrant violations of fire safety rules. Electrical circuits carries verified installation, very currents, and suddenly cut off. Whether the accident should such as the loosened contact terminal area by intention of an arc is produced. The magnitude of this arc depends upon the current amount of the voltage involved. At all times, the temperature of the arc is very high, and the ignition is combustible. In the addition of the metal, the conductor usually fuses. This hot flying metal, along with the flying sparks, may also ignite the combustible, frequently caused by the ignition of the wire installation. The electrical wire and conductor is technically termed normally negligible consideration standpoint overheating tendencies. However, the possibility of overloading each of the conductors rated in certain maximum capacity. Fire hazards occur in two ways. The capacity limitation exceeds the deterioration of the insulation, which exposes the wire through the creation of excessive heat. 8-10. Fuses and other safety devices. Many of the devices have been designed for the overcutting or overcurrent protection. The devices open the circuit and then cut off the current when the electrical flow reaches the given maximum. The most common device is a fuse that contains a strip of the metal that overheats the melts of the current exceeds the fuse capacity. The breaking the circuit of the fuses consists of normally two common types, the plug type and the cartridge type. Another protection against the overcurrent provided with the circuit breaker. The device is automatically cut off the flow of electricity when the current becomes excessive. All overcurrent protective devices must be designed to comply with the harmless within themselves that they go into operation. Cleanless contact with the fuse terminals and boxes is important because the dirt can cause overheating with the blowing of the fuse. D. The hazard most likely to be found with the overcurrent protective devices as fouls. One plug fuse blown out and have been pennies inserted behind them or wires inserted between the broken contacts. Fuses the capacities higher than desired circuit breakers to do the high setting. Fuses and circuit breakers are poor mechanical condition. Unconfined fuses in the area contain combustible material. Fusible cabinets and open and missing doors. Corroded fuses enclosure circuit breakers. Refillable fuses containing additional metal strips. 8. Cartridge fuses which have been blown, replaced with nails and wires or other material. 9. Circuit breakers may be made useless by the tying of the block of the tripping element. 811 wiring switches. Several recognized methods of installing electrical wiring on rigid conductivities should be used with the gasoline vapors may be present. No conductor should be installed, even temporarily, that does not conform to all safety requirements. The hazard most frequently found in electricity wiring is as follows: overload conductor corrosion, the conductor coverings, corrosion loosening of supports covering the outlet boxes or junction boxes, wiring installed temporarily, use the joints and not properly together, flexible conductors hung over the nails, and makeshift contrivances may cause the water and wear of the create arcing and sparking. In an electrical switch, the chief hazard is caused by the arcing in which the switch is operated. Switches contained within the enclosure of the will confined with the might occur, but the most prominent hazard is in switch corrosion with a faulty mechanical condition resulting from use of abuse, overheating due to poor contact or overload with the current inclusion, or absent in effect with the contact burn with pitted through with the current circuit is open or closed. 812 lamps. Principal type of electrical lamps are vapor, incandescent, and arc. In location, flammable gases, vapors, dust. The improperly equipped lamp becomes explosive or fire hazard. Mercury of the arc lamps are spark hazards, and if not confined, the gas-filled lamps are now in common use, generated enough heat to ignite combustible in contact with close to the globe. Neon lamps require the high voltage supply. Other than hazard from the arcing with the high voltage may create portable lamps are frequently used in the damp and wet locations. The practice presents them fire hazards and personal safety hazards. Hazards must accompany portable lamps. And fragile sockets. Use of the defective unimproved cord. The use of the fragile lamp guards with the absence of any of the guard. Failure to provide a disconnection. Release of the vent of the strain of the cord. Lax sockets are not greater than the fire hazard. Any approved type of the socket containing the correct load limit is used with the component of the socket and partly assembled. There are many lamps that are substandard construction. When making a fire safety inspection of these lamps carefully. Substandard lamps indefinite fire hazard. 813 flexible cords. Flexible cords should be maintained with the absolute necessary for their use to constitute distinct fire hazard unless the carefully attention will be given to the treatment of the condition. Flexible portable cords, the subject of much of abuse, must contain conductor fine standards of the wire insulation covering the small dimension. Frequently consist of the combustible material, and instances have occurred with the metal wheeled vehicles have been passed over portable flexible cords and caused critical loss with creating by an arc of the presence of the gasoline vapor. A cord should be lifted over any heavy moving object instead of the object passing over the cord. The better portable cord are covered by the heavy rubber outer jacket containing the observation maintenance for these cords and paramount safety precaution. Complete replacement of a cord is necessary applicable where it becomes evident. 814 motors and generators. Electrical motors and generators pass defiant fire hazards since they produce arcs and sparks, frequently overheat the burner out because of the overload. The motor and frame should be suitable enclosed, but the combustible material should be kept away from the vicinity of the motor generators to prevent the hazardous condition resulting from arcing and sparking. Overcurrent protection will safeguard against the overloading. The following of the common precautions regarded with electrical motors: safeguards of rage and fires that must be kept away combustible materials out of the damp club places. The subject of the material motor corrosive vapor. The overcurrent must be exceed 125% of the rated capacity and must be kept on top of the motor. Special precautions must be taken when starting an electrical motor. Must be combustible because of the arcs and heat produced with the motor. Low voltage in the terminal must be corrected because of the cause of the motor burn and start the fire. Overleading is producing the heat because of the fire. 815 static electricity is generated with the applicable extensive minimal industrial manufacturing operations and is a factor which requires major consideration when aircrafts are used. Previously, it was believed that static electricity generated over the friction between two unlike substances is known now that the static electricity is created by the contact of two unlike substances even though no friction is present. Static electricity is now to be a serious fire explosion hazard in presence of volatile, flammable, liquid, flammable gas, highly ignitionable fibers and combustible dust. In areas where the hazard is greater, with the advisable replacement bets in the chain of the gear device drivers eliminate the generation static electricity when the construction features cannot be changed to prevent the generation static electricity. It is also advisable to ground all metal parts with which may accumulate with electrical charge. The atmosphere normally non-conductive with electrical, but ionized air will normally draw in static electricity from the charged metal implements. Static neutralizers may be installed to do this. Humidity is an important factor of the ability of static electricity to jam the highly charged metal objects. High humidity is present in surface resistance and reduce the electrical charges that are drained off of the as they form. Humidity up to 40 to 50% generally prevents the quantitative buildup of the static electricity. Static electricity is created with the gasoline suitable similar flammable liquids are passed through a hose poured with the one container through another filter, subject to velocity almost in any other manner. These dangerous static charges frequently cause these series of fires and explosions unless preventive measures have been taken. When gasoline is discharged from the hose, the copper wires should be installed with the pump through the hose of the nozzle. The nozzle should be kept in contact with the metal receptacle at all times. In many cases, such an aircraft tank separate wire male connection is plugged into the static electricity drain and installed near the tank opening device should be plugged in before the gasoline is allowed to flow through the hose. 816 General Storage Public Precautions. In theater operation, when materials stored outside where they are protected with the warehouse, large quantities should be divided with the dispersed and discourage fire propagation at the same time. The ample space shall be allowed for extinguishing activity, firefighting equipment. Fire loss would be greatly decreased in the various classes of supplies and stored systematically. Fire extinguishers should be strategically placed in storage rooms or other locations available as present control firing in this outbreak. Instructions should be provided to inform the occupants of the building called to fire department immediately if fire occurs. The attempt to pull out the blaze with the first aid fire extinguisher. More than one person is present, one should turn into the alarm while the rest of the fire. Signs should be consistently placed while the special precautions are necessary, which is the order no smoking, other essential precautions, recommended procedure. Even though the fire should be given, the metal containers plainly marked with the intended contents should be placed as when needed and a safe distance from the structural flammable. Most civilian military personnel should report any violation of fire regulations without delay of the responsible person in charge. Fuels, engine fuels, lubricant, gasolines, and coal should be stored separately on the base without previously installed permanent facilities. Gasoline and oil drums should be stacked horizontally in double rows, but butt-to-butt flammable liquid should be placed in a slope away from the danger so that the free liquid will drain off in the safe direction. The storage involves a great quantity of liquid fuel should be segregated into the group of the volumes such small as practicable. The earthen dikes erected in and around each of the groups to confine the burning limits to the same single area groups. Ammunition, all types of ammunition should be stored isolated in individual piles, separated with enough space to allow attached to vehicles or fire extinguishers for removal. Exposed ammunition is safe during the exposure of the fire as possible. Ammunition piles segregated to prevent individual pile exploding and other series of others, causing complete loss of materials in areas. The distance between the piles can be determined by the type of the ammunition, characteristic reaction upon detonation. 817. Lightning. Lightning is a frequent cause of fires. A certain period of the past year to light up the field from the standpoint of the monetary losses on the basis where the wooden structure, flammable liquids, ammunition, powder precautions against lightning must be taken. Especially true with some of the sections of the United States where the lightning hazard is present in for almost 100 days out of the year. Lightning rods prevent the damage of the lightning of the properly installed. The rods extend from 24 inches to 60 inches above the highest projection of the structure of the grounding connections. The distributed symmetrically around the base of the structure. At least two down conductors, ground conductors, should be made at opposite horizontal ends of the structure. The lightning rods of the conductor grounding connection should be made with the copper of the several lightning rods installed with the structure that should be bounded together with a horizontal conductor following the roof, the edges, the roof ridges, the parapets, and the structure. Likewise, all down vertical conductors should be conducted with the bonded grounding connections. All conductor cables should be not less than 1/7 American wire gauge. All oil tanks, whether the steel or some other material, should be grounded. Direct lightning strikes on the tanks may be averted by a network of wires properly grounded at least 6 feet above the tank, and a series of the steel mass may be erected around the entire tank frame at such a height that will not impede the ground of the activity. This mass are joined with a series of wires in horizontal patterns. Structures containing stored explosive needed for the protective only against direct lightning hits, but also can against inducing sparks caused by lightning strikes. Immediate area. The best location for power or storage or underground is all small individual segregated rooms. The room should be covered with earth and equipped with the copper cables running across the roof and the ground on each side. 18-18, painting and spraying. In any location painting of lacquer spraying is performed which involves the vehicles and aircraft, simply structural interior decoration. It is always fairly certain that flammable solvents ignition below temperatures are present with the atmosphere. Ventilation is most best important against the for ignition. Each of the compartments spray both should be equipped with an individual exhaust duct, including spark-proof fan. The use of the heating is of varying purpose, increasing the fire hazards of the paint spray increases the necessity of causing electrical hazards, the greatest source of the fire drain and a point of sprayed area. Spontaneous ignition, careless operation, maintaining habits also high on the list of fire hazards. Miscellaneous common deficiencies, conditions, and otherwise and covered in this chapter will require attention during the inspection as follows. Sprinkler buildings arrangements should be kept at least at 18 inches clearance above the sprinkler deflectors to reduce the possible obstruction of the distribution of water for high-powered combustible stock. Increased clearance of 36 inches or more should be proved. The sprinkler heads should be not painted. The painted heads must be replaced. The alteration, extension, additions, or other modifications to existing buildings should not be made with providing the necessary alteration of the sprinkler system when not suspended. The ceilings, similar addition with the buildings are made with the necessary extension of the sprinkler system may tend to be overlooked with non-particular unless position of midway between the sprinkler heads and lines require additional sprinkler heads and a change for the occupancy may also create conditions with the required sprinkler lines. B. Automatic fire alarm systems. The same conditions described in above may occur with the building of the automatic fire alarm systems are installed. Automatic combustible dormitory type of the building's individual sleeping rooms should be added automatic fire alarm systems, particularly true form of the open bay barracks, combustible construction which have been modified for individual 2 or 4 man sleeping rooms. Interior finishing and insulation. Interior finishing and insulation in army buildings required to be non-combustible. Flame spreading not higher than 25 is tested in accordance with the ASTM E40A4. Combustible materials such as plywood, low density fiberboard, similar material other often installed with the troop labor of self-help and should be removed. Existing facilities inspection should be determined with the condition of the panic card way, existing lights and door swings. The existing doors should not have blocks or locks or chains installed unless they are unlocked and removed when the building is occupied. The structures must have 2 existing excessive dead end corridors may require additional exits or outside stairs. Fire doom. Fire door closing devices should be good operation condition. The doors should be locked. Doors should, such as stairways and closures, doors should be kept closed. Cleaning with gasoline, similar flexible liquids is prohibited. Close of business inspection. Inspection conducted with the building of the fire marshals is important, but the file preventing the practice of participable in practically club theaters and other places. Assembly, trash, smoking materials should be removed from the building. Upholstered cushions on furniture turned up. Early morning inspection by fire department recommended to determine that it has been done. Hoods and over the kitchen equipment should be equipped with washable type of filter. The filter should be cleaned weekly and usually dishwasher machine. The hood and connecting ducts should be also cleaned regularly. Appendix A references.